Hey everyone! Before we open today's file, please make sure to follow us on Instagram at d.s.radio, where you can find all the images that go along with today's case. You can drop us an email at contact.dsradio@gmail.com. You can find all of our socials in the Linktree bio on our Instagram profile, including links to merch. If you're feeling especially generous, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/dystopian simulation radio, where you can get access to our exclusive Instagram page and make suggestions for upcoming episode topics that you would like us to cover. Speaking of Patreon, thanks to our Patreons, Riff Cult, Cropley Crab, Cash Broadus, Raspberry Jr., Jason R. Nelson, Creepy Paper, Jamie Sook, Michael Laughlin, Lindsay Keller, Mike Wright, Greer Weaver, Kelsey Carruthers, Linz Gibbon, Drake Holvig, Only Child, Michael M, Wesley Akers, Riaz K, Emily Medeiros, Pip, Heather Wynn, Graves, Devon Sweatshirt, The Ordained Sinister Minister, and Philip Hoffman. Everybody, and welcome to Dystopian Simulation Radio. I'm your host, Linz.
And I'm your other host, Chris.
How are you doing today, Chris?
I'm pretty good. Got a bit of a sore throat today, though.
What happened? Did you get a wrestling-related injury in the ring?
Yeah, exactly. When I debuted my new character.
What's that?
El Santo.
For all that don't know, we say this every time, Chris is Spanish. And I just learned today that he evaded a stint in the Spanish military, in the Spanish army.
I did. I don't have currently a Spanish passport, but if I did, it would have technically meant that I would have been eligible to do service in the Spanish military, which is required of all children, or it was at the time. So children, 18.
Yeah, I was going to say,
not child
in
soldiers.
Spain they send children to the army. But we did discover through this conversation a very sexy uniform.
We did. The Spanish army's uniform is very thirsty.
It is thirsty, and
it has a plunging neckline.
Plunging, and it looks very good from the back.
It looks very good from the front as well.
So for the OnlyFans account, we might order one of those, and maybe we'll order two. I could have like a hot pants kind of playsuit version, and you could have the straight up tight
or the tight buns version.
The tight buns version and the plunging neckline as it is. No edits needed.
It was made for me, to be honest. So
it was. So Chris, today, I received a very strange file.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Very strange indeed. Takes place in the cryptozoology world.
Okay, I like the cryptozoology world.
I know, you are a secret crypto head and not cryptocurrency. Cryptozoology. One of them would probably make us more successful and financially stable than the others.
Cryptozoology is definitely more profitable than cryptocurrency.
Well, for some, it probably is. But yeah, okay, well, let's start off with asking you, what's your favourite cryptid, Chris?
Ooh, so many to choose from. I think probably my favourite cryptid, though, is the chupacabra.
The goat sucker. Of course it is.
Goat sucker. I love the idea of this tiny little creature that runs around at night and is able to latch onto cows and just exsanguate them.
Exsanguate. Beautiful.
What a word.
Beautiful, but did you get that from like an AFI album or something?
I actually got it from the X-Files, although it is used a lot in AFI albums, but no. So my wife isn't a native English speaker, and we watched all of the X-Files together at her behest, and there were several words that kept cropping up that she was just like, what is this? And she wrote down this list of words, and top of the list was exsanguated. I was like, don't know if this is going to be particularly practical for your everyday usage, but okay, let's go.
I don't know, it's English. You can get creative with sentences, so you could work it in there somewhere.
You could do.
Right, so the goat sucker.
goat
What's your
sucker.
favourite
El
goat sucker?
chupacabra.
Cool. How big is the goat sucker?
I think it's supposed to be like quite small.
Like Chinese crested dog height.
Like kind of like a 1 foot type of thing. It's like not 1 foot, 2 foot. It's not a big thing, but it's got a voracious appetite.
For goats.
For goats.
But honestly, I realised when I was researching the story that I don't really know that much about cryptids. Like, I know all the big hitters, as you would say.
Bigfoot, Abominable Snowman.
Abominable Snowman.
The Yeti.
I was gonna say the Yeti. Abominable Snowman sounds so weird.
Abominable Snowman sounds like an old British racist term for the Yeti.
Yeah. I feel like he'd be more of a mascot for racists, though, because I imagine him to be big and white and stuff.
I can't think of like an abominable snowman. Firstly, what a word, abominable. Your standard sort of 3-tiered snowman, just really, really angry, like shaking its fist.
My favourite, thanks for asking.
So, Linz, what's your favourite cryptid?
Honestly, I was about to say, I don't know. To be honest, right, I think the cryptid I'm going to tell you about today, only because we don't know what it is. And I like that.
Oh.
I like that. I like it a lot. And also Jeff/Geff ? The talking mongoose.
I love that, but I think we should do a whole episode on that at some point.
Me too. I don't want to go too much into it, but I'm sure everyone's heard of this. But when you actually, I only read a couple of things about it, and when you actually read about it, it's like, what? It's so not what bizarre. You think it's going to be. It's the most, and it is classed as a cryptid. Am I right? And
yeah, it would be. Yeah. I mean, it's technically a talking mongoose.
Yeah,
but
it's also many other things. It's not just what it looks like on the what it looks like. There is a picture of it, everyone. By the way,
supposedly it manifests itself as a mongoose, but it's some other kind of entity.
Yeah, so I suppose the mongoose is a vessel, and I don't even think we have mongooses in the UK. Mongai.
Because was it Scotland? Was that where it was?
Was it like the Isle of Man or something?
Oh, yeah,
something
maybe.
like that.
It's the Isle of Men, not the Isle of Mongoose.
Well, who knows? I've never been there.
It's the Isle of Mengeese.
The Isle of Mengeese. That would be a good cryptid.
Half man, half goose. All pain.
It would just be really irritating, depending on which half was the top. If the top was the goose, it would be annoying as hell. Ew! It's a bit early in the episode for that. This story takes place in the early 60s in Florida. But I'm going to get into this. I'm going to tell you the story. Stop me when you need to. So on Saturday the 24th of March, 1962, 4 teenage boys in Pensacola, Florida set off on a skin diving adventure to explore a shipwreck.
Stop.
Yeah, exactly. Skin diving.
Skin diving.
Right? Yeah.
That sounds like the name of a 70s porn movie. What is skin? Is that naked diving?
No.
Skinny dipping?
That's what I thought when I first started. But apparently it is free diving plus snorkeling. So masks and fins.
Oh, okay. I wouldn't have got that from skin diving.
So this adventure party consisted of 5 teenage boys. So we have the main player in this story. He's 16-year-old Edward Brian McCleary. And we have 16-year-old Eric Rule, 17-year-old Warren Sally Jr., 14-year-old Bradford Rice, and 15-year-old Larry Bill. Of the 5 boys, only 1 would return home.
Ooh.
So on the morning of March 24th, 1962, they all climbed aboard a rubber raft and paddled their way out to a well-known shipwrecked vessel, the USS Massachusetts, which kind of scuttled itself in 1921. This wreck became a diving hotspot in the area, and to this day, people make their way out there to explore it. The shipwreck attracts a lot of marine life, so people will often go to observe like giant schools of fish, different types of sharks like nurse sharks, rays, and sea turtles, and they occasionally get dolphins there too. So the military wanted to salvage that ship at one point, but the people of Pensacola petitioned against it and they got to keep it. The Atlas Obscura website, which I think most people are aware of, but just in case you're listening and you don't know, the Atlas Obscura is basically a website that maps strange and obscure locations and points of interest by city or town. The page for the shipwreck describes the ship as the worst battleship ever built. Which
I love it already.
Yeah, Which sort of explains why the US Navy decided to give up on it and just shoot the shit out of it way out in the Gulf of Mexico and basically use it for target practice. Apparently it was just really badly designed to the point of being legitimately useless, and it ultimately got itself stuck out in the ocean. The ship isn't submerged that deep, it's around 26 feet down, so when the tide is low enough you can actually see parts of it jutting up out of the surface. So in a way you can see why a bunch of kids with a rubber raft on what started out as a clear day probably thought they'd be alright. So to give some context to the weather that day, McCleary said it was really sunny and warm on land, but the water was still really cold. He said he also had visibility for like 40 feet down or so in the water. So aside from it being a bit cold, it was a nice clear day for diving. So I found one fishing website that said it was a bit of a difficult route. They noted that there was a lot of boat traffic and strong currents around the wreck. They also suggested wetsuits, which we know our little skin diving friends didn't have.
No, and it can be...
We live in the northeast of England, by the way, to everyone listening.
When I go out paddleboarding, invariably you'll fall in at some point. You get a big wave coming or whatever. And it's fine because you're strapped to a giant inflatable and hopefully you're wearing a life jacket as well. But when you fall in, there's a thing called cold water shock. And that's essentially when your body hits the water and it changes temperature so rapidly, it's the biggest killer. It disables you, basically. Yeah. So that's why wetsuits are really important. And also probably life jackets as well.
So McCleary had only lived in the area for a couple of years. I think he was originally from New York. And the other boys were basically all his diving acquaintances. So they called him that morning, asked him to go out, and he agreed to go, and they all rocked up in this beat-up van and travelled to the beach together. They went out on a rubber Air Force life raft, which was around 7 feet in length, with oars and a drift anchor. Unfortunately, the elements would turn against them, and they would eventually find themselves abandoning their boat and attempting to swim towards a nearby buoy, or buoy if you're American, near the shipwreck, before the ship really hit the fan.
Hey.
That was in my script, by the way. They saw a boat not too far away, and thinking that they were being saved, frantically started waving and screaming for help. But an old lady just waved back at them, ultimately clueless that they were in any danger.
Look at those friendly boys over there.
Yeah.
Wave to them, Gerald.
So Safety Chris, what do you do if you're out there and you're in trouble and you can't wave because old ladies just wave back and let you perish, apparently?
Well, I mean, you need to raise the alarm any way that you can. I mean, generally the thing to do would be to put both of your hands above your head and wave them.
I'm pretty sure they did.
But if they did that and
Grandma
didn't
waved
work,
back.
the only thing kind of hope would be that on the boat there'd be either like a flag you could wave or a flare that you could put up or something like that if you're seriously in that much trouble.
So I guess they didn't have anything like that. Just their skin in their arms.
Just the skin in their arms.
So being in a drift at sea is terrifying enough. But the darkness brought with it a whole new brand of terror. So it's storming at this point. Now, according to Edward McCleary, the boys battled against the storm, which seemed to come suddenly on an otherwise beautiful day. The sky got dark, the clouds rolled in, rain pelted them from above, waves swelled and smashed against the side of the boat, which would have most definitely sunk if it wasn't for the inflated sides. The water was freezing, and he described the rain as ice needles. Oof. It was just a totally miserable situation all around. How would you feel, Chris?
I would be pretty fucking miserable, I think. That sounds atrocious. Ice needles hitting you. I mean, I've been to Florida.
You have?
I have. I've been to Florida twice when I was a child on family holidays. And although I didn't experience ice needles, I do remember the rain. Mm. And rain would just suddenly come on. Like weather would just kind of sweep in, because obviously it's not just on the coast, it kind of juts out of America as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember the rain coming down so hard that I remember being trapped in the doorway of somewhere because we couldn't cross the street to get to our hotel because the rain was coming down so hard, and the rain actually hurt when it hit you. So this was warm rain. God. So I imagine if it was cold rain, it would be very much like these ice needles that he's describing. So fucking hell.
Imagine how cold it gets, though, in the night, like out at sea.
It must be
horrible.
It must be horrible. I mean, if you think even in Florida as well, which is a warm climate.
Yeah.
It's not having a good time, basically.
No. So when the storm eventually subsided, it left in its wake a thick blanket of fog over everything. So they're still freezing, the boat is wet, it's collected water at the bottom, it's miserable, they're holding on for dear life, being dragged around by the current, and they can't control which direction they're going in. It just sucks. So they have this idea to lasso the boy that they're being dragged towards with the drift anchor from the raft, so they can at least stop themselves being dragged further out to sea, or at least that's what they hypothesized. But the boy is basically thrashing around in the waves, and the closer they get to it, they realise that it's a lot more dangerous than it looked from far away.
Buoys are pretty big, I think.
They're absolutely massive. So as they got closer, this thing is like thrashing side to side, and they just go,
Yeah, there's like what must appear like the Eiffel Tower going like side to side right now.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, the boy crashes down onto the raft and flips it. So they're understandably like freaked out, and they start squabbling. And then they're just like, right, we'll take our chances in the water. So they get out. They're probably having the shock thing you described earlier.
I would imagine so. It's definitely having an effect on their body. They're going to get hypothermia sooner rather than later.
Definitely. As they're like arguing about what to do, a large creature approaches them through the fog and sends them into a wild panic. So they're trying to swim away from this creature and thrashing against the waves in a desperate attempt to make it to either the shipwreck or dry land. Only McCleary would live to tell the tale, and he would be found sleeping at the beach the following morning.
So like shipwrecked, dinghy wrecked.
An article on fontainezoology.blogspot.com states that McCleary was found at 7:45 a.m. sleeping on a gun emplacement from World War II not far from Fort McRae, which is where they originally started out. It was a helicopter crew from the naval station that discovered him there. So Chris, what are you thinking? He wakes up on the beach the next day. How?
I mean, I would imagine kind of like a shipwreck. He was just sort of carried there. I mean, he said he was sleeping on a gun emplacement.
Yeah, like this old World War II thing that was just left behind.
Yeah, which, I mean, it depends obviously where it is and so on, but I think of gun emplacements as something that you have to climb onto.
Yeah, I think he must have washed up on shore somehow, came to a bit, crawled to this place, and then just passed out. Yeah,
I mean, that makes sense. I mean, it seems like he, at this stage anyway, like he was the lucky one who got away from at least the water, if not this mysterious thing that's approached them.
Mm-hmm. So if you Google the words sea monster, Pensacola, Florida, and 1962, what you'll get in the first portion of the search result is basically cryptozoology blogs and websites. So I'm not discrediting those bloggers or the people who write for those websites in any way, but I was just kind of skeptical if this like event, sea monster or not, had actually taken place and if there was any evidence of it. So last week we talked about, well, a couple of weeks back we talked about the case of a Scottish man who was attacked by sea mine looking spiky balls that rolled out of a UFO and gassed him. But the interesting part of that story was, according to the police, there was genuinely indentations in the ground and something left behind.
Physical evidence.
Exactly. In this case, what we end up with is a witness account claiming a sea monster sighting and 3 missing teenagers, and then later, a dead body.
Right.
Yeah.
So we've got at least one piece of evidence in terms of a dead body, but what that proves, I guess we'll find out.
Yeah. I found there was one article where Edward McCleary retells the events in great detail, and it's a story that is featured in a May 1965 issue of Fate magazine, and apparently it's the only in-depth telling that he's ever done. He didn't like to talk about it. So Fate magazine is a paranormal magazine. It's kind of like this little A5 magazine that's mostly full of adverts. It must have been funded basically by adverts, but the adverts are so bizarre. I wish I had the copy with me, but I left it behind in Sweden. I'll explain that later. Okay. But if you open up this magazine, you'll see things for like cassette tapes that you listen to in your sleep that help you learn another language, cures for this, that, and the other. You know,
hair tonics and stuff.
Beyond that, it would be, well, it did have hair tonics and stuff, but it would also have things like, do you need some voodoo spells? Or there was one advert where...
Would you like to summon a demon?
You're joking, but it had... but more on the kind of like religious kind of spectrum of it.
Right.
You know, like, would you like to summon an angel to help you in your everyday things? Would you like
to learn the 10 words that help all of your dreams come true. Really crazy, strange things. And then you could buy, alongside that, you could buy a Ouija board.
So
some
like paraphernalia or various kinds for
supernatural, spiritual, strange
spiritual
things.
Stuff, yeah.
So I managed to track down the specific issue of Fate magazine in Sweden, back when I was in Sweden a few months ago.
Okay.
I got it at this place called AFU Shop, which is a Swedish UFO/paranormal organization that works to collect and catalogue all UFO and paranormal literature in one place.
Ooh.
Yeah. So I was in Stockholm and it was around a half-hour drive, and we planned to take a road trip to go pick it up and look at all of the alien stuff. God, I would have come back with so much stuff. Could I have gone? But unfortunately, due to the pandemic and also time constrictions, I couldn't go. But I will go in the future, and I'm going to try and interview the guy.
Ooh.
For this podcast.
That'd be cool.
That'll be coming in the near future. So this article in Fate magazine, which I got a copy of in the mail instead, it features a drawing by McCleary of the creature that the boys saw that night. We haven't talked about that yet, so we're gonna...
Is he as...
What kind of... Sorry?
I was going to say, is he as good an artist as we saw in the Alien Balls episode?
No. Spoiler alert, he's not as good as... What was his name? Bob Taylor.
Yeah, Bob Taylor.
Bob Taylor, I think his art was great.
It was great, yeah.
If you guys haven't heard this episode yet, it's probably called something to do with Robert Taylor or Alien Balls.
It's called the Robert Taylor Incident.
Okay.
It'll be
brackets Alien Balls.
Yes. And if you haven't seen his drawings, they are also on our Instagram at d.s.radio.
Yep, all the visuals and everything we talk about will be on the Instagram. So if you want to follow along or you just want to check out the pictures afterwards, including Brian McCleary's drawing of this cryptid I'm about to show Chris. Here you go, Chris. Please describe to the listeners in greater detail this creature.
I might struggle on the great detail bit. So in the background, we've got a boy, or a buoy, which is bobbing up and down in the background. It's a bit phallic. And just above you have a bird, which is sort of emanating from the crown of the phallic boy a little bit.
It's kind of how you would draw a seagull when you're a kid, just a V shape.
Just a V shape. But in the foreground, we've got waves which are sloshing around, and there is what looks to be a dinosaur coming out of it, is that what they're called? Plesiosaurs. Is that what it's called?
I think so.
The aquatic creatures with long necks.
Yeah.
It looks kind of like, if you don't know what I mean, or if it's not a plesiosaur, then it looks kind of like a stereotypical Nessie.
Yes.
So its head is sticking out of the water. Presumably there's more beneath. The neck, we've got the head, which got some quite angry looking eyes.
It's quite a big head.
It's quite a big head with a rounded sort of nose to the front, and hanging from the mouth there is something. I don't know what that is, because the scale is not exactly sure, because the only reference point is the boy in the background, but it must be reasonably tall based on how large boys are. Coming from a mouth, there's also what looks to be some smoke or some, dare I say, fire? Is it a dragon?
You know, I always thought that was a cloud, but I think you're right. It looks like a mist of, when you exhale in cold weather.
Yeah.
It does look, I always thought that was like a cloud, like a child's drawing, because it's quite childish. No offence to Brian McCleary.
It's strange because it's almost a mirror image of itself. The left and the right is almost exactly the same. Basically, what you have is an aquatic Nessie dinosaur sticking its head out of the water, breathing some steam with perhaps some seaweed or maybe some legs hanging out of its mouth.
Okay, Chris is looking at me like, God's sakes. We recorded an episode a while ago in which I genuinely thought they had drained the loch to look for Nessie, and I am an effing idiot. It would be an ecological disaster. And in this episode, we chanted,
Drain the loch! Drain the loch!
And I am so glad that it doesn't exist anymore, honestly.
I mean, you say it doesn't exist anymore.
Stop it. No, don't blackmail me.
It might still exist, and we might...
Depending on how you're going to comply, Linz, it might exist.
Well, all I'm saying is, if you want to hear that episode where Linz...
Oh, it's so embarrassing.
...puts forward that they have drained the loch, then all I'm saying is you go to our tip jar...
No!
Which you can find by going to our Instagram account, clicking on the Linktree link, And then it's the one at the top there. Leave us a tip with a little comment that says, drain the lock.
Oh my god, I hate you so bad. But yeah, essentially it's a dinosaur-looking Nessie character, and it looks like it's cutting through the waves.
Yes.
So it looks like it's moving and it's breathing out some kind of mist. We see a long neck and a head with small eyes, sort of dinosaurish, Nessie-esque creature, and apparently this head and neck was sticking up around 10 feet out of the water.
Okay, so its neck's 10 foot long.
Yeah. It's pretty big.
It's a pretty big creature.
It's a big boy.
Yeah.
In several write-ups on the case, the creature is described as resembling a telephone pole with a bulbous head on the end of it.
Oh, okay. Telephone
I don't know if that's what I would say based on the drawing, but...
No, but I suppose, in the mist, if it's thick out there, it could look something like that.
Yeah. And apparently, it smelled like pure death. Think really rancid, rotting fish.
Right, okay.
McCleary claims that he saw the sea monster take Eric Rule and drag him underwater. Then it took Bradford Rice and Warren Sally. He said it knew it took Bradford because he heard Warren Sally exclaim the fact before screaming and going silent, which McCleary took to mean that it also got Sally.
Okay.
The way it's described in the retelling is creepy as hell, though. It's like the sea monster basically swims behind them, hissing and splashing around, and then picks them off one by one, like Jaws or something. So, apparently McCleary and Larry Bill began to swim towards the shore, but they kept cramping up, and although he helped his friend along at points, McCleary doesn't know what happened to Bill, only that he eventually drifted away from him and never saw him again. McCleary says he can't recall how he got back to the shore. He doesn't remember swimming all the way, and he even alludes to the idea that he thought he had sunk and drowned at one point.
Okay.
Either way, after the event, McCleary was obviously in a state of shock after being exposed to the elements and going through such an ordeal. He told his rescuers about the sea monster right away. He didn't try to hide anything.
And what did they say to that?
We'll get to that.
Okay.
I think they basically just thought he was in shock and they just got him to a hospital ASAP. Bradford Rice's body was found washed up on shore. McCleary says he helped to identify it, but the language he used to describe the process is sort of strange. He says, quote, "To the best of my knowledge, I identified the body as Brad Rice. Later I read that it took a week for the body to wash up, which might explain why I said to the best of my knowledge. It was likely difficult to get a positive ID on someone after that amount of decomposition and bloating, etc., changing the appearance. I can't imagine what Brad Rice would have looked like after a week of being in the ocean, and to be honest, you could probably only identified him maybe by clothing or hair or something like.
I would imagine bloated and partially eaten.
Yeah.
But. So this creature's attacked him, or attacked all of the boys. One of them has washed up. Mm-hmm. Were there any bite marks on Brad?
No.
Right.
Yeah. I was going to get into that later, but now that you ask, no, that's the first thing that I thought too. There was apparently no bite marks. I think the cause of death was just drowning. There's no autopsy out there that I could find, but that's what I read anyway. But yeah, exactly, no bite marks. You would assume there would be something if the sea monster had grabbed him and...
There'd be at the very least bruising, and that's if it just gave him a good gumming.
Good gumming. That sounds like a really weird sort of subgenre of pornography.
Good gumming.
Good gummings. Like by George. Good gummings.
Good gummings.
So just to kind of, I was like, this is a crazy story. I'm going to try and do everything I can to find out if this actually happened or not.
Okay.
Because as I said, if you search for it, you basically just find those cryptozoology blogs and stuff. And although they've written about it, they weren't there. They didn't have any extra knowledge, didn't interview. They just, when you sort of like re-report something.
Yeah, they're not doing any original research.
Yeah, exactly. So we're all just basically reporting the same story in different ways, through different mediums. So did an online search for the names of the boys to start off with, and I didn't really expect to find anything, to be honest, considering how unreported it seemed to be. And I thought it was kind of a red flag, like maybe it's a hoax, because people have said like, oh, surely it's just like made up. And of course it was in Fate magazine, but Brian McCleary could have just written a story. However, I was on the Find a Grave website, which I volunteer for now, and there was a page for the grave of a Bradford Rice, along with a picture of the grave. So there's only basic information on it, and it says Bradford J. Rice, birth 1947, death 1962, which makes him around 14 to 15. So, goes along with the story. And he's buried at Beale Memorial Cemetery, Fort Walton Beach in Florida. All adds up?
Excuse the pun, but on the surface it all seems to add up, yes.
So Bradford Rice's body was found washed ashore. Cause of death was apparently drowning. I don't believe there was a mention of any other injuries that could be considered strange or inflicted by any kind of marine creature in the autopsy report, although I haven't seen it, as I said earlier. If there was anything strange that could, indicate an attack of some kind, that would have definitely been part of the story. And it's not. So make of that what you will.
I mean, I suppose it's possible that the two boys who were not found, their bodies were not washed up, were eaten. And for whatever reason, Bradford Rice was left alone. Maybe it was full. I don't know. But it seems like an odd thing to happen.
To just leave. Oh, you mean from the creature's perspective, it eats and leaves one.
While animals may play with their food, they would kill until they were full. They wouldn't kill, and then just like leave one there. Do you know? Do you see what I'm coming from?
Yeah.
If
they're in the mode to hunt, they're not just going to leave something.
Although the one thing I would say about this is that it's just the size of the creature that is the unknown factor here. Because if you have a great white shark, for example, it attacks and then it eats its prey. What they do is they bite and then they run away and let them bleed to death and then they eat them. But they don't go off and hunt other things and come back. But they don't tend to just kill a bunch of things and then go through munching course to course. But with a creature the size of this potential Pensacola plesiosaur, I don't know, that's got some nice alliteration to it, and probably just ate them whole, which is what I would imagine these guys would do.
I feel like this creature looks like one. And although it's large, it's probably mostly like its body is huge, but its head's pretty small. So would that be eating a human? It doesn't look like the kind of creature that would eat a person.
I mean, the other option, which is just a bit weird, I don't know if it would really work in the ocean, is that it's kind of like a giraffe, where it's got a really long... it's got a really long
One
neck.
of them sea giraffes, eh?
Yeah. But the body itself, while... tall compared to a human, compared to the size of its body, is way out of proportion.
Yeah. According to the Fate write-up, McCleary said when he tried to walk, he couldn't because he still had his fins on. So he took them off and threw them away, discarded them. He also mentions that they all put their fins on to swim when they initially, before they got knocked out of the boat. But in a short article published otherwise in a newspaper at the time, it says the masks and fins were still in the boat. So there's a lot of conflicting statements. I think this is what makes this story so annoying to look into. There is a lot of reports, but they're all archived behind a paywall. But the main information online, which is where everyone tends to re-report, they're all kind of like conflicting little articles about... I suppose the details don't matter too much, but when he says, oh, they didn't have time to put their fins on, they all jumped out. And then he's saying he took his fins off when he got to shore in another article. I suppose
you've got one of two things that's happening here. Either you've got reporters who are using creative license.
Yeah.
Or you have a one-man Rashomon effect here, where he's retelling the story in multiple different ways that conflict with each other, which, considering the length of time between the first interviews and this interview that he gave in Fate magazine, he may very well have suppressed information. He may very well have developed a way of telling the story over the years. Regardless, there would be discrepancies between an interview in 1960 odd and then, when was this one?
70.
1970?
Yeah.
Okay, that's not too bad then, actually.
Yeah, it wasn't too long after. But I was
thinking this was years and years afterwards that he finally gave an interview on it.
No, it was a few years later.
Okay then.
But the thing about this kind of storytelling and re-reporting, it kind of makes it feel like an urban legend, it didn't really happen. So when I kind of found found the grave of like Bradford Rice, I was like, oh wait, so there is something to it?
It is real.
And then finding out that Edward McCleary is a real man, there was a picture of him in the Fate magazine. There's no picture of him online. I've only seen a picture of him in this magazine. So it's kind of like people who run their cryptozoology blogs, they want to believe. So they all go, oh look, well there's a sea creature and a guy died and everything. It's like, these things did happen, but like there's no bites. Chris is really theatrically drinking out of his I want to believe X-Files cup, and I just could not continue my train of thought.
No, I'm not.
And he actually looks like Mulder. Like we'll put a picture of him on the.
I don't look like Mulder.
If you shaved your beard,
no.
He does. Like a 90s Mulder. Well,
You're going to get everyone excited if you say that.
I would say.
Don't get your hopes up.
I would say better looking than David Duchovny, though. You're like, I'll take it.
I'll take that. I'll take that compliment. Yeah, go on.
How I'm being unnecessarily nice to the man who's just like embarrassed me over Drain the Lock.
So don't forget, if you do want to hear that episode, all you need to do is go to Instagram. That's at d.s.radio. Just click on that little link tree there. The top link is a tip jar. Just go on there, leave us whatever you can, enough to buy a coffee.
Hate you.
That would be great. And
I hate
just
you.
make sure you leave in the comment, Drain the Lock.
I hate you so bad. I'm working my ass off trying to find out if this is a real story, going to UFO shops in Sweden.
Guys, if we can fund the draining of the lock, right, through crowdfunding, all I'm saying is if we can get like 1 million listeners, nay, 10 million listeners, and you all donate £1 English pound, we can drain that lock, see if there's a Nessie, and then put the water back quick enough not to cause an ecological disaster.
I hate you so bad. You know what? I think there has been a petition to drain the lock. And you know what?
Was it started by you?
No. And one day, if the lock does get drained by some psychopath billionaire who buys Scotland, and they find a Loch Ness monster, joke's on you.
No, it's not. Because I hope there's a monster in there. I want there to be. That's the whole point of this podcast.
Like, you know when you take a goldfish out of a bowl, not that I do that, but like in a movie or something, or a cartoon, and they go, blah, 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 blah. They're just like a little Loch Ness. And it's like much smaller than we all anticipated, like dog size, medium dog size. And we're all like, oh, that's it? Like we're expecting this big grand dinosaur, and we get like
tiny little sea serpent.
Yeah, imagine that. Like, okay, that's kind of a weird point. If the Loch Ness monster was extremely small, like iguana-sized, would you be impressed by it? You totally would not. Maybe for like a week you'd be like, whoa, that thing. And then afterwards
I'd be impressed
you'd
by the discovery of a new species, but I think the reason why the Loch Ness monster gets attention and like the new species of spider that was discovered in Guatemala last year doesn't is due to the size and unusualness of it.
It's just because it's big.
Yeah.
If
If they were just like, oh, hi everybody, today's top news, we found a mega giraffe. And everyone was like, well, where's that been hiding then?
Yeah. If he wasn't big, no one would care. Isn't that crazy? Because there's things like narwhals and they're amazing and they look like they shouldn't be real. But because we've seen them and they're not that big, we're like, oh, it's a narwhal. But then, like, just because Loch Ness is large, like, he's still just a big, I don't know.
Big old dino boy.
A big old slab of meat with a neck on it.
Yeah, well, that's what we all are at the end of the day, isn't it?
Big old slabs of meat with a neck on it.
That's my Instagram profile.
That's your Tinder.
That's my Tinder.
Big old slab of meat for you.
With a neck on it. What more could you want?
With really big traps to protect
really big traps and turtlenecks, and apparently better looking than David Duchovny. You heard it here first, folks. But I'm taken.
I've been doing you massive favours on here. So if you want to see Chris and his big meaty neck, you can follow our Instagram at d.s.radio. So if you want to donate to Tip Jar and you want to send Chris's big meaty neck $5, just go ahead. You have to tip and say, show me the meat.
Just when you looked at me and you're like, so subscribe to see Chris's big neck. Okay. Well, Let's compose ourselves.
The Fate article states that journalist interviewed McCleary from his hospital bed at the Pensacola Naval Base Hospital. He claims they said they'd leave out the sea monster part, which I don't know about you, but if I was a journalist with that story, I would totally leave it in.
But this was 1961, did you say? 1960-ish? 1962. I can kind of imagine them kind of going, yeah, that's ridiculous, I'm not doing... You know, like old-timey, like, we only report the facts here. A woman wasn't driving.
You might be right. But then again, they all seem to just friggin' make up things because all of the articles contradict each other.
Well, exactly. You know, we only report the truth except when we make it up.
Except when we wish we were like...
creative light.
Yeah, exactly.
It was a big meaty giraffe.
Oh, God. So let's move on to theories. When it comes to theories about what actually happened, people kind of went ham. Some people think McCleary murdered his friends there in the Gulf of Mexico. There's zero evidence of this, by the way.
Like Godfather 2 style. Like taking them out on a boat and executing them.
Yeah, like, why would he do that? Like,
I can't believe he drowned with a bullet in his brain. Whoa.
You couldn't write this stuff, could you? But yeah, he's got no motivation to do that. Not that I could think of. I mean, he regularly went diving with these buddies. Like, it's just another day out, and unfortunately...
It sounds a little bit conspiratorial.
Yeah, I honestly just totally disregard that one.
I'm not saying this is what happened, but if he went through an event, an extremely traumatic event, as we talked about in the Robert Taylor episode, if somebody goes through a traumatic event of some kind... Sometimes these images could pop into your mind, and for Robert Taylor it was alien balls, but for this guy it could be a sea monster. And it's not an entirely implausible thing given the scenario. I'm not saying the sea monster itself, but...
Sea creature, perhaps?
Sea creature, exactly. Yeah. That there could be a sea creature out there. I mean, you mentioned before there were sharks in the area.
Yeah.
Miami's known as a place where, you know, a good place for sharks. It could be all sorts of creatures out there that could have done something. I mean, there are reports of during World War II when boats were torpedoed and so on, sailors being attacked by sharks and things like that. But it's unusual. I don't see that happening given the scenario. And also, the thing that really sticks out is the 10-foot neck.
Yeah.
Because no shark's got a 10-foot neck.
Yeah, exactly. That's the only part that makes you think, like, what? But also, it's just occurred to me that it was nighttime, it was foggy.
It's out at sea with no natural light as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Or just the moonlight.
And then you've got structures actually in the water that tower you, like the buoy, for example.
The USS Missouri.
Exactly.
Massachusetts.
Oh, Massachusetts, yeah. But there's all sorts of things seem to be like jutting up, or structures in the water, the buoys in the water. Like, you know, your second interpreter doesn't step in your brain and you just see something that isn't there.
I mean, if the waves were that volatile, he wouldn't have got a great look at the thing.
Exactly.
So it would have just been
panicking.
a fleeting glance in a panicked state whilst you are potentially suffering from hypothermia and on the verge of drowning as well.
Although we did draw his picture of it.
Yeah, there's a bit of a shit picture, isn't it?
Well, he's not here to be offended, Chris. So rest in peace, McCleary. The most interesting theory for what this creature could be that I found came from a comment under a Reddit post about the case, which referred the OP to a post made around 2 years ago in the biology subreddit. So someone posted there asking what the members thought the creature McCleary described could be, and a user named Northern Sparrow replied to the post with their experience of seeing a skim-feeding North Atlantic right whale in the wild.
Oh.
So you might be like, okay, there's a big difference between a whale and an aquatic dino monster with a 10-foot neck.
Yeah, I don't think any whales have 10-foot necks either.
No. But if you click on the image and video that Northern Sparrow links, you'll see why he suggested this specific type of whale. So Chris, I will let you look at this picture and tell me what you think.
So what I'm seeing here is a filter feeding whale, which is filter feeding currently. It's got its filter feeder part of its mouth wide open.
They're called baleen or something.
Baleen, yeah, because baleen whales, isn't it? Yeah, so it's got the baleen part open.
Can you describe what that is to people? It's sort of like the stringy...
It's like it's a filter, basically. Yeah. So if you imagine, a coffee filter or something like that, they have one of those in their mouth so that they can have a cup of joe at any time they need.
And it basically just looks like long pleats that kind of hang down. You probably know what we're talking about.
Long stringy pleats, and when they swim through the water, it filters out the water and lets krill or whatever it is that they're eating get stuck in it and then digested. If you imagine that it's got its mouth open, the lower half of the mouth is below the water, which we can't see, and the upper half is of course above the water. Now, the actual part of the mouth that is open looks rather like the drawing that Edward did. So we've got a kind of bulbous part at the front, and at the very front there's a little nose part as well, which makes it look like it's a creature unto itself. There's some barnacles or some scarring up on the top, which gives it a pronounced sort of top of the head like appearance.
Kind of appearance, yeah.
It's kind of sticking out of the water, not 10 feet tall by any stretch of your imagination, but it is certainly raising itself out of the water more than you would imagine a whale to do. So I can see, looking at this, if you squinted and looked at it, so imagining that it's, bad conditions, you wouldn't see the baleen and you would just see the mouth that's open. And yeah, it looks like the drawing that McCleary drew.
Yeah, it's actually, I think, a really impressive theory, because the baleen, it's lighter in colour than the top part of the whale, and the top part of it from the beak down kind of towards, I imagine, the neck of the actual whale that's submerged, is the shape of a sort of dinosaur, Nessie-esque creature.
Yeah, you could easily mistake that for it
especially if it was
conditions.
Dark and foggy.
Yeah, I would say that the size is still the outlying thing.
Yes.
But again, as we discussed, he only had a fleeting look at the thing. My only question, which I don't know if you could answer this or not, how deep is the water around the USS Massachusetts? Because obviously it's grounded itself on some rocks.
From what I could gather, 26 to 40 feet, depending on the tide.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's deep enough, I would imagine, for a right whale. But if you know more about right whales and can tell us how if they can be in that kind of a depth or not, let us know. I assume they can be in that depth.
I have a diagram of this whale submerged at the same level as the photo. All of these will be on the Instagram, of course, so you don't have to search for them. Look how much extra whale there is, Chris, under the surface.
That's a whole lot of extra whale.
It's a whole lot of meat.
It's a whole lot of meat. He's a meaty boy. There is maybe, I'm going to say, maybe 10 to 15% of the whale above the water, and all the rest is below, sampling that sweet, sweet krill.
Now, Chris, keep this in mind while I show you a diagram of this right whale.
Okay.
With a little human silhouette scuba diver for scale.
Wow, that is
Now imagine
big.
how tall the rostrum and the bolete might be now that you look at it. This is the diver. I don't know if you can describe this to people.
Essentially, we've got the
size, yeah.
A diagram of a whale, and there's a human scuba diver for scale next to it, and the human scuba diver is the length of about its tail. So I would probably say
it's not even the length
of a flipper.
Of a flipper.
So I don't know what you would guess at the length of this creature, but it's big. I mean, it's not blue whale sized, because the blue whale's the largest creature on Earth, but it's not, I would imagine, not far off. It's a good couple of double-decker buses.
It is absolutely massive.
Can I just say, why do we measure creatures
in double-decker buses? Because we're British.
Because we're British.
So, Chris.
Yes.
We've seen a still image of it.
Seen a diagram.
We've looked at a diagram. We've compared it to a silhouette of a human scuba diver.
Wait. Do you have one here for me today?
Well, Chris, today is your lucky day. No. I have the right whale for you in action.
Okay, let's see.
You ready? Now, from the still, do you feel creeped out? Because I felt massively creeped out when I saw this thing.
It looks like, because of the reflection at the bottom, to me, it looks like it's kind of like an anglerfish, like a giant anglerfish. It looks quite creepy.
But look, this does look like a dino head.
It does.
So we have the tip of the beak and sort of the rostrum from a front view. This is a front view of the whale.
And it's angled, so it gives the appearance of a nose and eyes as well.
Yes, it looks like a little, like a nose protruding out, and then eyes, and the crest is it's
thick traps.
Thick traps. So here we go, Chris. Describe what you see.
Let's just describe. So I'll say what I see, just like catchphrase. There is a right whale, I'm assuming, swimming straight towards the camera.
Feeding.
And it's in perfect daylight, and you can't really see the filter. of it. It's just closed its mouth, and it looks very much like Nessie, is what I'm just going to call it.
It really
putting its head
does.
back into the water again. We've
Look
got
at that.
another slightly top-down one, and the only thing that's sticking out is that rostrum, looking top-down on the creature. I can now see the filter feeding aspects. Now we're looking at the side, but I couldn't see that before.
If it was not broad daylight, you would not see.
No, definitely not.
I swear, this is the closest thing that I think someone could mistake for a Loch Ness Monster-style creature.
I'm going to agree on that. It's very much convincing that this is what they saw. The one thing that I would say is that it's just about height and how, because that's not sticking 10 feet out of the water.
Don't you think?
No, I don't think it's sticking 10 feet out of the water.
I don't think there's much for scale to really show you how big it is.
True.
And if you're under this thing,
Well,
though,
that was going to be my
and the
point.
waves are swelling, and like, you know, maybe it's going up and you're going down.
True. I mean, yeah, exactly. It could be, higher up than you are.
It is very eerie looking.
It's very eerie looking.
It glides almost.
It looks...
When it turns to the side, I swear it is the shape of a aquatic dino-style creature.
And especially when it closes its mouth, it looks like how you would envision a plesiosaur diving down into the water. So they're just going to pop its head back in there. And because it's got this white...
Barnacles,
Are they barnacles?
Yeah.
They are. White barnacles all along its rostrum. It makes it stand out even more, this figure silhouetted in the ocean. You know what always creeped me out about baleen whales is the fact that they look like they're creepily smiling.
Kind of.
Yeah. It's looked like they want to smile, but they're not comfortable with the situation they're in.
They look like they're gurning.
So that is very interesting. And is this the leading theory, or is this what Northern Sparrow has put forth on Reddit?
This is what Northern Sparrow has put forth, but to me, it's the leading theory in my mind, because I just honestly think that it just, when I first saw it, like I've seen it a few times now, so I'm not as shocked as I was the first time, and I don't want to like build it up for listeners before they've had the chance to, or maybe you already know what it looks like, a skim feeding right whale. But I honestly, when I saw it and I imagined seeing it in the dark and being flipped out of a boat and panicking, I think listeners would agree when they see this too. Let us know. We'll do a poll anyway.
I think so.
On the Instagram stories. But for me, I feel like that's a case closed.
Can I propose one other theory? Just seeing all of this evidence, because something doesn't quite sit right for me.
One more thing, though.
Okay.
About the right whale.
Right.
Do you remember how McCleary said that it smelled like basically death?
Yep.
Well, I consulted Google to see if whales smell really, really bad or not. And I found this article, which was kind of funny and borderline venomous. So I thought I'd read it to you.
Okay.
It's from a National Geographic, by the way. So it says, "Then we smell it. The odour is blunt and pungent, almost a taste in the mouth, an unholy mingling of fart and fishiness. Hundreds of gallons of air forcefully expelled from its lungs, laced with the fumes of half-digested krill, hundreds of pounds of these slow-dissolving crustaceans fermenting in its stomach."
Wow, that paints a picture.
So what was your...
Well, I was thinking, right?
Oh, God. Chris has been thinking.
I've been thinking.
Here we go.
And I'm not saying that this is true. I'm just saying that it is true. So the Army, the Navy, scuttled this ship in 1921.
Uh-huh.
And, I mean, it just seems odd that this perfectly good ship, although perhaps not perfectly good as a war vessel, but a perfectly good ship would be scuttled instead of being reused. Something doesn't sit quite right for me on that, because you would just sell it into trade. You would, you'd use it as a touring vessel, something like that. There'd be some other use you could use for it.
I don't know.
But why would you scuttle a vessel?
Because it sucks.
Because there's something on it that you don't want anymore. You can't control anymore.
You do? Okay. Where's this going?
Well, what I'm saying is maybe this was some kind of secret project. Slightly after World War One here. So, and we're leading up to World War II, and maybe America's thinking, we need a secret weapon. Maybe, we can...
Against...
I mean, obviously, the biggest threat to America coming up in the next few years would be communism. So maybe...
Oh, you're saying Florida.
There's stuff going to be happening here. Cuba, exactly. Now, it doesn't really fit with the time frame.
Okay.
I'd say of 1921.
Oh, yeah, okay.
That doesn't really fit, but...
Unless you're psych.
Well, exactly. But, the tensions were rising all around the world, and communism was starting to get rolling, and maybe they thought, we need an aquatic creature to take out these commie vessels.
Communessi.
Or maybe it's maybe Communessi scuttled the boat.
Yeah, I was going to say, wouldn't Communessi attack? Oh my God, he attacked it every time that it launched on a mission.
That's why it was so useless, because Communessi was programmed by the USSR in conjunction with the Plesiosaur Society.
They had a common goal.
They had a common goal, which was
and
to
they
take
united. The one wanted a warship that could never be sunk, which was Communessi, and one wanted to bring the Plesiosaur back. So they said, you know what's
Funding
pretty hard?
ensues.
Yeah, you know what's hardcore? Plesiosaur.
Yeah.
You know what could be trained? Aquatic animals.
Mm-hmm. And, this genetically enhanced and resurrected plesiosaur presumably cannot die, much like the Terminator. So it must still be out there somewhere, swimming around Pensacola, Florida, looking for warships, yet there are none currently.
Because he did such a good job,
Such a good job.
Communist.
He's guarding that. Those boys took a vessel into Communessi's turf.
You know what? I think I read it was a little navy dinghy too.
There you go. So maybe he said that there's lots of fishing, it's a busy shipping lane and so on.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he's not interested in that at all. But the fact that this is clearly a navy boat or a navy vessel, and he's just like, comrade, I will take you out.
Why did you look at me so erotically when you did that?
Hey, that's Communessi. I didn't make it. It just is that way. It just is erotic.
Are you saying you have a personal connection with Communessi to the point where you know what accent he has?
I've got a hookup.
Is Nessie a male or a female?
Oh, didn't you do this on
I did, and I don't remember what the results were, and it's like I never found out.
I think I said female, I think
we said female, and everyone said we were stupid, and it's clearly a man.
I don't know, I guess you hope the last of a species would be a
can impregnate itself.
A female, yeah. Because some creatures...
Some can? Oh, God!
Some creatures can change gender or grow, or essentially, what do you call it? I don't know what the phrase is now.
The word?
But it can...
Snails do it.
Yeah, they can basically mate with themselves and create offspring in times of extinction or in times of extreme stress when there's no suitable...
I'm stressed, time to give birth.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just what you need in a stressful situation, children.
You could eat them.
Well, you could do. That's what Communessi does.
You know a little too much about this...
Communessi.
Well, case solved.
Case solved. It was Communessi. There we go. Right whales? Nope. Communessi.
Right wing.
Right whales. How about wrong whales?
Right wing whales versus Communessi. Now that's a Godzilla-style movie I would like to see.
I would pay to see that.
I would pay.
So, anything else to note on the case before we leave this episode today?
Solved, man. Communessi. That's it. No, but in all seriousness, it really sucks because a bunch of kids went missing at sea and one rocked up dead, and it's really horrible. But it's kind of interesting to find out more details about a case, a crypto case that felt like something of an urban legend before, or just one of those weird stories. To find out that there was some real facts to it. People did go missing. Someone did turn up dead. Something happened.
And it was a case that was, at least on some level, investigated by the police.
I actually contacted the police.
No.
I did. When I totally forgot about this. When I was trying to figure out if it was real or not, I was looking for records. And I actually contacted the Pensacola police.
And what did they have to say to you?
on a non-emergency email, by the way. I didn't just like call them and go, I need
You
help.
called 911.
Call me Nessie. No, I didn't. I emailed them and I just said that I was looking into this case and just doing some research, and I wanted to know if they had any records, and they said that they didn't, and if they did, their records were pretty much destroyed like in the 90s, so they don't have anything going back further than that. And they told me to contact, I think it was like the Coast Guard or something.
I suppose that makes sense.
So I did, and they said that they didn't have any records, but sea monsters were cool.
Okay, right.
And then I got put in touch with like this lady who did like the archives or something, and she couldn't like give me any details on it either. So basically all records seemingly have been destroyed. So all we have is the grave of Bradford Rice, which I think, come on, it totally matches the story. It's the same year, he's the same age, he has the same name, it's the same place that it happened. So he's definitely died. And then I found, I subscribed to Ancestry, and I found out a couple of the guys really did exist.
Okay.
We have the picture of McCleary from his Fate article. We have the Fate article too, and his drawing. And we have... What else do we have?
Got the original interviews as well.
Oh yeah, we have all of the articles that were... I found archived, actually, multiple articles that you cannot find on Google. So there is a lot on it, but it's all behind a paywall. But we'll put these articles on the Instagram too. There's a bunch of them. We'll put it in a slideshow. You can scroll through and read them, different details and everything. But this is definitely a thing that happened. Okay, maybe the sea monster, we can't prove that. That's what McCleary claims. And obviously there's no evidence on the body and things, but this happened. A bunch of boys went out to sea and only one of them returned.
Thank you very much for listening.
Thanks so
today.
much, everybody.
And thank you, Linz, for presenting us with this case today. Feel free to leave a comment on our Instagram at d.s.radio, and we'd love to hear from you. You can send us a DM as well if you want to give some comments or so on. You can find all the ways to contact us on our link tree, which is in our Instagram bio, but Instagram is generally the best way to contact us. And if you are feeling like, hey, those guys really distracted me from whatever the shit I was doing right now, I'd like to buy them a coffee, then you can click on the top link of the link tree, which is to our tip jar. But there's absolutely no obligation to do that. We're just happy you're listening. But if you do feel like sharing this with somebody, giving us a like or a follow on Instagram or any of the other platforms, that would be super.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
I do. I like paddleboarding in the ocean, but it's you've got to be careful. You've got to respect it. I mean, it's...
You've got to respect the ocean, man.
I mean, it's
Or the ocean will disrespect you. You sounded like you had an old sailor story.
You've got to respect the ocean, or it'll eat you alive.